Today, I'm going to use this video podcast to remind you that effective September 1, 2019, there are new disclosures required of seller under the seller's disclosure notice. Effective September 1, the law requires seller to include in his or her disclosure information about whether the property is covered by flood insurance, whether there has been previous flooding of the property due to a failure or breach of a reservoir, or a controlled or emergency release of water from a reservoir, and whether there has been previous water penetration into a structure on the property due to a natural flood event. The new seller's disclosure notice also requires seller to disclose if seller has ever filed a claim for flood damage to the property or received any assistance from FEMA or other governmental entity for flood damage to the property. These new disclosure requirements do not invalidate any seller's disclosure notice completed and delivered to a buyer prior to September 1, but any seller's disclosure notice completed and delivered after September 1 that does not contain these required notices is ineffective as to the delivery obligations on under the statute. As you know, if a seller's disclosure notice is not delivered to a buyer on or prior to execution of the contract, then buyer may terminate the contract for any reason within 7 days of its delivery. A seller's disclosure notice delivered after September 1 that does not contain the required information is not delivery. As I stated, the new disclosures that are mandated as of September 1 do not invalidate a seller's disclosure notice that has already been completed and provided to a buyer. However, the legislature and probably most of us deem flooding a significant event which warrants disclosure to a buyer under any standard. Arguably, then, we have a new higher standard under common law which requires every seller of any type of real property to disclose defects the seller knows or should have known affect the property, or be subject to a claim of fraud for non-disclosure and resulting damages incurred by the buyer. Common law is separate from and in addition to the statutory requirements of the seller's disclosure notice. For more clarification on this, please watch my video, which is titled Missing Information on the Seller's Disclosure Notice, and it was released September 14, 2017. It can be found on the Media Center of our website at allegiancetitle.com. Here is my recommendation as to updating a previously completed and delivered seller's disclosure notice after September 1. If you are under contract, do not update the seller's disclosure notice. But if buyer is not already aware of the information that otherwise would have been disclosed using the new SDN, then the seller should put it in writing. He should give the information to the buyer that is suggested by the new SDN just in a written document, not a new SDN. Because if you provide a new SDN, the 7-day window to terminate for any reason may open back up. If, on the other hand, you are not under contract, then I would suggest that you have the seller update the seller's disclosure notice that's already provided by either completing a new one or providing an amendment to the current one. Please discard all your old templates. You will know when you are using the current seller's disclosure notice form or have been given a current updated seller's disclosure notice if you look up in the right-hand corner of the form and you see the date 9/1/2019. Thank you for supporting our videos and podcasts. Allegiance strives to provide value to you and your business. We look forward to seeing you at the closing table.